My name is Summers, and I am 28 years old. I was sitting across from my boyfriend Adrian at our favorite Italian restaurant when he said the sentence that finally stripped everything bare. We had been together for 2 years, long enough to build habits, routines, and the illusion of stability. I paid for the apartment, the streaming services, his gym membership, his phone plan, his car insurance, and most of our meals. He worked part-time at a boutique and talked endlessly about starting his own business someday. I believed in him. I believed in us. That night, though, belief felt thin. Adrian was scrolling on his phone while our food cooled between us. He smiled at the screen, typed quickly, laughed under his breath at something I couldn't see. I asked if everything was okay. He didn't look up. He kept texting, thumbs moving fast, attention somewhere else. Then, without even glancing in my direction, he said it. He said he could replace me in an hour if he wanted. He said there was a line of women waiting for him. I set my fork down slowly. The restaurant noise faded into a dull hum. The candlelight reflected off his phone screen, illuminating his face while he smiled at someone else's words. I was sitting there, paying for a dinner he wasn't eating, watching him flirt on a phone plan I funded. I looked at him and said quietly, "Then don't wait on my account." He glanced up for half a second, rolled his eyes, and went back to texting. He thought I was joking. He thought I'd cool off by morning. He thought wrong. In that moment, I saw the future clearly. The gym visits I paid for, the Netflix he watched all day, the phone that let him text other women, the insurance on the car I helped him buy. All of it existed because I allowed it, and all of it was about to disappear. I didn't say another word that night. I smiled politely, flagged the waiter, paid the check in cash, and drove us home in silence. Adrian didn't notice. He was too busy laughing at something on his screen. When we got home, he went straight to the bedroom and turned on the shower. I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. I didn't cancel anything yet. I just logged into every account and looked at the names, the payments, the quiet trail of generosity that had slowly turned into entitlement. Adrian thought I needed him. He thought I'd tolerate anything because I was too kind, too generous, too afraid to be alone. He was wrong. Tomorrow morning, he was going to learn exactly how wrong he was. I didn't do anything that night. That was the part Adrian never understood about me. He thought silence meant weakness. He thought calm meant I didn't have a backbone. But my calm has always been the place where decisions get made. While he showered and hummed like nothing happened, I sat on the couch with my laptop open and looked at our life the way you look at a receipt you've been too polite to read. 2 years is long enough to forget where things started. Long enough to convince yourself that what feels heavy now was once light. I met Adrian at a work event, and he was magnetic in the beginning. Funny, charming, all plans and big ideas. He talked about launching his own business someday like it was inevitable, like it was already halfway built in his head. I liked that confidence. I liked the way he looked at me, like I was the only person in the room. Within 3 months, he moved into my apartment. Within 6, I was covering most of his bills. He said it was temporary. He said once he got momentum, he'd contribute more. I believed him because I wanted to. He worked 3 days a week at a boutique and spent the rest of his time at the gym, watching shows, meeting friends for brunch, talking about future plans that never seemed to arrive. I didn't mind at first. I had a solid job. I could afford it. And Adrian made me feel wanted, at least when he needed something. Back then, he posted pictures of us. He introduced me to his friends as his girlfriend. He said I was generous and supportive. He'd kiss my cheek in front of people like he was proud. But over time, the gratitude faded. He stopped saying thank you when I paid for dinners. He stopped asking before adding a new subscription. He stopped acting like I was doing him a favor and started acting like it was my role. The phone behavior started about 6 months ago. At first, it was a few texts here and there during dinner. He'd glance down, smile, tap a quick reply, then put it away. When I asked, he said it was just friends, group chats, memes, harmless. I didn't push because I didn't want to be controlling. Then it became constant. He'd sit next to me on the couch, laughing at his screen and never show me what was funny. He'd tilt the phone away without thinking, like privacy was automatic and I was an inconvenience for being curious. I started noticing other things. He dressed up more on days I wasn't around. He came home later from the gym. He mentioned names I'd never heard before, then got defensive when I asked who they were. One night, I saw a text preview flash on his lock screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." I asked who it was. He snatched the phone, deleted the notification, and said it was a coworker swapping a shift, a coworker he'd never mentioned. I didn't accuse him. I didn't scream. I filed it away and kept watching because I could feel something shifting under the surface. By the time we went to that Italian restaurant, I already knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong until he said out loud that I was replaceable while he was texting someone else on my dime. That's the part that haunted me most. Not that he was talking to other women, but that he'd gotten so comfortable using me, he didn't even bother hiding it anymore. He said it like he was doing me a favor by being honest. The weeks before the restaurant, I'd started keeping track. Not in a spreadsheet, not like some obsessive detective just mentally cataloging the disrespect. He used my Netflix login to watch entire series I'd never heard of, then complained when I wanted the TV for a game. He went to the gym I paid for every day, but never had time to cook dinner or clean the apartment. He said he was tired from his 3-day work week. His phone was always face down now, always within reach. If it buzzed while I was nearby, he'd grab it fast, like my eyes were a threat. One morning, I woke up early and found him already awake, sitting in the living room in the dark, smiling at his phone. When I walked in, he jumped and locked the screen. He said he couldn't sleep. He said he was just scrolling. But scrolling doesn't make you flinch when someone enters the room. I made coffee and went to work without saying anything, and the whole day I felt like I was carrying a truth I hadn't named yet. At the office, I closed a big deal worth 6 figures. I came home proud, ready to tell him, ready for the kind of moment couples are supposed to share. He was on the couch with Netflix on, phone in hand. I told him about the deal. He said, "That's cool," without looking up. I stood there for a full 10 seconds waiting for a follow-up question. He didn't ask. He just kept scrolling and half watching a show I didn't recognize. That was the moment I realized I wasn't his girlfriend anymore. I was a bank account with a heartbeat. The next Friday, he asked if I could send him $200 for a girls' night. I asked what happened to his paycheck. He said rent and his car payment took most of it. I didn't mention that I paid the rent. I didn't mention that I paid his car insurance. I just sent the money. He went out that night in a new outfit I'd never seen, came home at 2 a.m, smelling like tequila and someone else's cologne. He laughed about how some woman bought their table drinks. He said it was no big deal. I said okay. But something in me hardened. After that, I started planning. I logged into our shared accounts and made a list. Gym membership under my card. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Spotify Premium under my email. Phone plan with 2 lines under my name. Car insurance with Adrian as the primary driver on my policy. Over 2 years, I'd spent tens of thousands keeping him comfortable while he slowly checked out of the relationship. And now he was telling me there was a line waiting to replace me. That restaurant night wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the moment the end stopped pretending to be far away. When we got home and the shower turned on, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. I stared at the accounts on my laptop and imagined what would happen when I pulled the plug. I imagined Adrian waking up, reaching for the life I'd been financing, and finding air instead of support. And I realized I didn't owe him a warning. I'd been warning him for months. He just didn't care because I kept paying. That was over now. I woke up at 6 the next morning, long before Adrian's alarm. He never woke up early on Saturdays. That gave me hours, and I used them without rushing. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a legal pad beside it, not because I needed notes, but because writing things down made it real. Then I started working through the list, one account at a time. First was the gym. I logged into the membership portal and found his name listed as a secondary user under my account. I clicked Remove User. A confirmation box popped up asking if I was sure, warning me the action couldn't be undone. I clicked Yes. The screen refreshed, and his name disappeared like it had never been there. I didn't feel anything yet. I just moved on. Next were the streaming services. Netflix first. I deleted his profile and changed the password. Then Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Spotify Premium. 5 logins, 5 password changes, every profile wiped, the watch history gone, the recommendations reset, all the little comforts he'd been enjoying quietly, erased without drama. The phone plan came next. I called the carrier and spoke to a customer service rep who sounded half asleep. I told her I wanted to remove a line from my family plan. She asked for the number. I gave her Adrian's. She asked if I was sure. I said yes. She said the line would be disconnected within 2 hours. I thanked her and hung up. Last was the car insurance. I logged into the policy dashboard and scrolled until I saw his name listed as the primary driver. I clicked Remove Driver. A warning flashed on the screen explaining that removing him would result in loss of coverage for any vehicle he operated. I clicked Confirm. His name vanished from the policy. By 8:30, it was done. Every account with his name on it was gone. I closed the laptop and poured another cup of coffee. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like balance. At 10:15, I heard his alarm go off. He snoozed it twice. At 10:45, he finally wandered into the kitchen in pajama pants, hair messy, eyes half closed. He grabbed his phone off the charger and frowned. "That's weird," he said. I looked up from my coffee. "What is?" "My phone isn't working. I have no service." He walked closer to the window, holding the phone up like signal might magically appear. He restarted it. Still nothing. He huffed, annoyed. "Whatever, I'll deal with it later. I'm going to the gym." I didn't say anything. I watched him disappear back into the bedroom. 20 minutes later, he came out in gym clothes, grabbed his keys, and left. I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes after that, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Adrian. My membership is canceled. Did you forget to pay the bill?" I replied with one word. "No." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I didn't forget," I typed. "I canceled it." 5 minutes of silence. Then my phone rang from another unknown number. I answered. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he snapped, panic bleeding through the anger. "Why would you cancel my gym membership?" "You said you could replace me in an hour," I said calmly. "Figured you could replace the gym too." Silence, then heavy breathing. "Are you serious right now? This is insane." "It wasn't your membership," I said. "It was my account, my card. I removed you from it." "I'm borrowing a friend's phone because mine doesn't work," he said. "What did you do?" "Removed you from the phone plan." "You're being childish." "You're being expensive and disrespectful," I said, "and I'm done paying for it." He hung up. The messages started coming in after that. Different numbers, friends' phones, a coworker's phone, someone at the gym maybe. "Fix this now. I need my phone for work. You can't just cut someone off like this. This is abuse." I didn't respond to most of them, but when he texted, "We need to talk. I'm coming home," I replied with one line. "You said there's a line waiting. Sounds like a good time to try it." An hour later, he used the key I'd given him months ago and stormed into the apartment. His face was red, eyes wild. "You can't do this," he said. "Half that stuff is mine." I looked at him calmly. "None of it is yours. Check the account names, check the cards, check the contracts. It's all under my name. You were a user. Now you're not." He laughed, sharp and hysterical. "So you're just cutting me off." "I'm stopping payment," I said. "There's a difference." He tried to soften then, sat down beside me, voice dropping. "Summers, come on. I didn't mean it like that. I was just frustrated. You know how I get." "I do know," I said. "That's why I'm done." "So we're breaking up." "You broke up with me the second you said I was replaceable. I'm just making it official." He paced, asked about his phone, asked about insurance, said he couldn't afford his own plan. I told him to ask one of the women in that line. His face twisted. "You're going to regret this." I shook my head. "The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." He grabbed his bag and left, slamming the door behind him. I sat there in the quiet afterward and realized I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time in a long time, the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. The first thing Adrian did after he left was try to control the story. By that evening, I started getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in months. Mutual friends, acquaintances, a woman named Michelle who'd gone to college with him and barely knew me. The tone was the same across all of them, confused but accusatory, like they'd been handed a version of events that didn't quite add up, but felt dramatic enough to repeat. Adrian told them I cut him off without warning. He said I financially abused him. He said I punished him for one comment and left him stranded. I didn't respond right away. I let the noise settle. I'd learned something important over the years. When someone is lying, they rush. When someone is telling the truth, they don't have to. Michelle called me directly that night. She was angry. She told me what I did was cruel. She said cutting off someone's phone and gym membership was controlling. I let her finish. Then I explained calmly that Adrian was never financially dependent in the way she was implying. I told her I paid for everything because I chose to, and I stopped paying because he told me I was replaceable. I told her I didn't take anything from him. I stopped providing things he never paid for in the first place. There was a long pause on the line. Then Michelle said quietly, "He told us you guys had a fight and you punished him." "We didn't have a fight," I said. "He insulted me and I set a boundary." She didn't argue after that. She said she'd talk to him. I thanked her and hung up. Adrian didn't stop. He posted vague quotes on Instagram about being hurt by someone you trusted. He shared stories about how hard it is to rebuild when people turn cold. He didn't name me, but he didn't need to. Anyone who knew us could read between the lines. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I didn't post a single thing. I went to work. I cooked dinner. I slept better than I had in months. 2 days later, he tried a different angle. He texted from a new number, apologizing. Said he panicked. Said he never meant it the way it sounded. Said he was scared of commitment and lashed out. He said he missed me. He said he realized how much I'd done for him. I read the message twice, then replied with one sentence. You don't miss me. You miss the access. He didn't respond to that. What I heard later came through other people. Adrian moved back in with his mom. He couldn't afford the apartment he thought he could replace me from. He had to downgrade his car insurance because he couldn't pay full coverage anymore. He stopped going to the gym because the cheaper ones didn't have the classes he liked. He complained about not having Netflix. His mom told him to get a better job. He didn't like that. Apparently, the line of women waiting didn't come with subscriptions. He tried dating almost immediately. Posted photos with different women. None of them lasted more than a few weeks. Turns out people are happy to flirt, but less happy to bankroll someone else's life. Mutual friends started getting tired of hearing about it. Adrian became the guy people felt sorry for, but didn't want to deal with. The one who always had a reason why things weren't working out. About 2 weeks after everything fell apart, he texted again from another prepaid number. He said he was sorry, that he finally understood what he lost, that he wasn't asking for money or help, just a conversation. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. I found out later he told people I'd changed, that I used to be generous and kind, and now I was cold. What he never said out loud was that I stopped being convenient. Meanwhile, my life started moving forward quietly. I focused on work. I poured my energy into projects I'd been half doing while I was busy carrying someone else. 3 months after the breakup, I got promoted. Senior role, better pay, more responsibility. I celebrated by taking a solo trip, hiking, reading, sitting in silence without someone else's needs humming in the background. One afternoon, months later, I ran into Adrian at a coffee shop downtown. He was sitting alone by the window, staring at his phone. He looked thinner, tired. He saw me and froze. I nodded once, polite but distant, and ordered my coffee. He didn't speak. He just watched me walk out like someone who finally understood what replaceable actually means. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel pity. I felt done. And that was the real victory. The quiet that followed surprised me. Not the absence of messages or the end of the drama, but the way my body stopped bracing for impact. I wasn't waiting for the next accusation, the next apology, the next attempt to pull me back into a story I no longer belonged to. I woke up without checking my phone. I came home without feeling like I owed anyone an explanation. The apartment felt bigger somehow, like space I hadn't realized was missing finally returned. I didn't rush into dating. For a while, I needed to remember what it felt like to choose myself without bargaining. I cooked meals I actually wanted. I went to the gym on my own schedule. I paid my own bills and felt a strange pride in seeing every charge belong to me alone. I noticed how light my evenings felt without someone scrolling beside me, laughing at messages I wasn't allowed to see. I noticed how calm my thoughts were without the constant math of who was using what I paid for. Friends asked if I missed him. I told them the truth. I missed the version of myself I'd been before I started funding someone else's life. I missed how generous I used to be without feeling taken for granted. But I didn't miss Adrian. I didn't miss the entitlement. I didn't miss being spoken to like I was interchangeable. I didn't miss sitting across from someone at dinner while they texted other women on a phone plan I paid for. A few months later, a coworker set me up on a blind date. I almost said no out of habit, then caught myself and said yes instead. His name was Marcus. He paid for his own coffee. He asked questions and waited for the answers. He didn't check his phone once. When I mentioned my job, he actually wanted to know what I did, not what it could do for him. When the barista messed up his order, he shrugged and laughed instead of complaining. It was quiet in the best way. We took it slow. No grand gestures, no financial imbalance, no unspoken expectations. The first time he thanked me for something small, like grabbing groceries on my way over, I felt my chest tighten for a second. Not because it was romantic, but because it was respectful. The first time he offered to cover dinner and said I could get the next one if I wanted. not because he expected it, but because he saw me as an equal. I realized how far I'd drifted from that standard before. Adrian tried once more, a message request from a new account. He said he heard I was doing well. He said he was happy for me. He said he hoped I found someone who appreciated me. I read it, sat with it, and then deleted it. Some conversations don't deserve a reply. Not because they're cruel, but because they're late. I heard through mutual friends that he was still struggling. That independence was harder than he thought. That dating without a safety net felt different. That the line he bragged about never really materialized in the way he imagined. I didn't take comfort in that. I took comfort in knowing it wasn't my problem anymore. One evening, Marcus and I were walking home after dinner when he asked me something simple. He asked what finally made me leave my last relationship. Not what my ex did, but what changed in me. I thought about it for a moment, then answered honestly. I said I realized that generosity without respect turns into self-erasure. I said I realized love shouldn't feel like an audition. I said the moment someone tells you you're replaceable, the most powerful thing you can do is believe them and remove yourself from the equation. He nodded like that made sense to him. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for details. He just squeezed my hand and said he was glad I knew my worth. That was it. No applause, no dramatic closure, just a quiet acknowledgement that felt real. Sometimes I think back to that restaurant, to the way Adrian said those words so casually, like he was doing me a favor by being honest. At the time, it felt like a humiliation. Now it feels like a gift, because if he hadn't said it out loud, I might have stayed. I might have kept paying, kept compromising, kept shrinking myself to fit a role I was never meant to play. He said I was replaceable. He was right in one way. I replaced the version of myself who tolerated that life with someone stronger, calmer, and finally at peace. And I did it without yelling, without begging, without revenge. I didn't replace him with another relationship right away. I replaced him with boundaries, with self-respect, with a life that didn't require me to disappear so someone else could feel important. And that made all the difference.